Hey guys, as you have noticed, the whole entire Indian market today was extremely volatile and sideways. And the main reason for that are multiple things that are transpiring in the US. And the main thing out of all that was the inflation data which came out, around I think 10 p.m. yesterday night. So that basically showed that the January core inflation data in the US was at 3%. Even though the estimate was 2.9%, here even 1.1% matters a lot, right? And we have noticed market tank like 2-3% over zero point 0.1 or 0.2% mismatch in what is the estimate in the actual inflation data. So now as a result of that, clearly yesterday as soon as the inflation data was announced, after 2 hours market opened at around 9:30 a.m. in US, we noticed a huge gap down, right? It's a current chart of Dow Jones on a 5 minutes time frame, but same thing have happened across every major US stocks and indices as well. But after that, actually Trump sort of saved the market, because maybe he had a talk with the Russian president Putin and Zelensky, who is the president of Ukraine. So now he was in talk with both the nations, and he mentioned that at the end of the day there's a very good possibility that the war would end. And this comes as Ukraine is actually mentioning that we are a strong country and we'll most probably be independent country, and we will never actually go in cahoots with Russia. So it's very contradictory statement, and clearly US, especially Trump, has taken a pro Russia stance here long before the meeting takes place. So the meeting is actually scheduled in Dubai, where both the country presidents will meet. So before that itself, Trump is sort of hinting that the war will end and I'm going to support Russia. So now, as a result of that, we have two main implications in the stock market. See, if there are no wars, obviously it is good for companies, it's good for the stock market, it's good for everybody, right? So obviously we notice that as soon as this news came out, this is Nasdaq on a 5 minutes time frame, opened around 21,400 but closed around very strongly with a very bullish candle around 21,719. So this clearly shows, from a stock market perspective, the news is very great. If the war ends, it's great. But then if you look at it from the price of, from oil perspective, be it crude oil or petrol, diesel, any of it, it's a very negative news. And that's mainly because Russia is one of the biggest oil exporter in the world. And clearly, if the war ends, obviously the oil prices are going to settle down. It's not good for oil if the war ends, right? As long as there is some sort of a dispute between all the countries, oil price just keeps going up and up. And obviously Ukraine is a very key part of how the oil moves through the entire world. So as a result of that, even though it is good for the entire world, if there are no wars, it's very bad for the price of oil. And we have also noticed with the price of gold as well, as long as there's some sort of uncertainty in the market, things like oil, gold, these things will go up, they will appreciate in price. But it's not the same for stock market. So after that, you can even see the chart over here, crude oil on a 5 minutes time frame, long before the talks with presidents. Before that itself, market was starting to fall around 6,300, and it actually closed the day way below 6,100. So a pretty huge fall in crude oil, I'd say about around 1.5 to 2%. So there was absolutely no recovery like we saw in the Indian market today. We have Nifty chart here on a 5 minutes time frame, opened around here, but after a bit of a volatility, it just closed exactly where it started. There was no clear direction or clear momentum, and this is mainly because almost every main news that was supposed to happen in the market have already taken place. Now the only little bit of news that is left will have to come from when our president will go to US and meet with him, to talk about the tariff that are being imposed from US on Indian exports, especially like steel and aluminum, which we'll talk about in just a minute, right? So as a result of that, this is not really happening in the Indian stock market as of now. So now if we look at the technical aspect of the Nifty chart, this is on a 15 minutes time frame, we noticed that this is a very key support zone. And actually yesterday we noticed market made a very beautiful hammer candle exactly around 22,800 and gave a upward momentum. So now clearly right now market is out of nowhere, it's in the middle but very close to the support. So if market were to come back to that same level, I myself as a technical analyst, I'm very interested if it comes back to that position and makes some sort of a bullish candle. And again, the resistance, a major resistance, is at the top around 23,800. Even though I can call this as a resistance, I'm not entirely sure on how this will play out. So I'm looking at the major support on 22,800. So next off, I have Bank Nifty chart. Again, very similar to Nifty, very sideways market today. There was a bit of volatility, but sideways, right? So as you can see, the major resistance zone here is at 50,400 to 500 levels here, and then we have a small trend line going on as well. So we could see market coming back to that trend line and having some sort of a technical impact. So support as far as Bank Nifty is concerned, unlike Nifty, it's very far away at 48,000. Not only will it act as a technical support, 48,000 is a very strong, in forms of OI as well. 48,000 is a very major level, so it will play out as a very key level in the coming week as well. So next off, we noticed a bit of surge in all the steel related stock. So as of now, Tata Steel had gone up around 3.5% today, and SAIL, Steel Authority of India, went up for about 3.5% again. JSW up about 1.5%. Jindal Steel is also up for about 1.5%. And there are two major news why the steel sector is in focus. First off, one mainly solely related to Tata Steel. They're coming back to the bond market. So what is bond market? For example, let's say how you raise money from the stock market, or how you can raise money from bank by taking a loan. You can also issue bonds. For example, if you issue a bond, anyone can just go and subscribe to that, and the company will basically have a contract saying after 10 years or after 5 years we'll pay you back this money with certain amount of interest. And companies only do this when they do not have enough cash, or when they want to make some sort of a capex, they come to the bond market to raise further money. So now this is coming mainly because of what is happening with Indian steel sector in relation to the Chinese stock. So China is pumping a lot of cheap steel into Indian's market. So what is happening? All the construction and the infrastructure companies, they are going after Chinese steel and not the Indian steel, because it's clearly about 30% way cheaper than what these Indian companies can afford to make it at. So clearly, as a result of that, all the Indian stocks were taking quite a bit of hit. And Tata Steel today came out, they had completely stopped it for about 1.5 a year. They had stopped raising money through bonds, but due to the uncertainty in the steel market, now they're back to raising money from bond market. So now, apart from that, the major news is actually, so like I mentioned, China is taking, Chinese cheap steel is taking a hit at Indian steel companies' profitability. So all these steel companies have been going to the government and saying, what, impose some sort of extra tariff on all these China related steel, so that people are more likely to purchase from an Indian company. So already we had raised it by, I think, 10%. So HG Kumaraswamy is like the president of the steel sector. So he says that as a minister of steel sector, I'm going to increase it by further 5% today. He hasn't done it officially, so it's just a report. So based on that report, all the steel stocks have been in a quite a bit of momentum today. And even after we've already increased it by 10%, if they increase it by another 5%, still Chinese steel would be a lot cheaper than what these Indian companies are selling it for. So clearly it's very interesting to see how the whole thing will play out in the coming days.
If you're a trader following market calls and tips for day trading, use our tool RNT, Research and Trade. All you have to do is link RNT to your trading account, then just sit and relax. Turn trading into business at app.gwcindia.live. Check out description for more details.
Disclaimer: investments in the securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.